everyone. Hey, it's Dr. Tamara Beckford with Your Caring Dogs. That's right. That's where we help you with health and wellness info. We break it down so that you understand what's going on and you can feel empowered, take an active role in your health, right? We have a special segment in our Your Caring Docs where we have a Docs Who Care segment on our podcast. We have docs from all over the world. We're going to help us with health and wellness information. But the best part is that they're going to leave their info here so you can get in contact with them. Or if you would like to be a patient of them, you will know where to go, right? Today, I have the honor and the privilege of introducing a great and a fantastic pediatrician from the Cali area. Her name is Dr. Elham Raker. All right. So I'm going to give you just a tidbit on Dr. Raker, and then she's going to drop all of the gems, right? So Dr. Raker went to medical school at University of California in Irvine College of Medicine, right? Then she did a residency at Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. Now, Dr. Raker did not just stop there. Not only is she a pediatrician that's been practicing for over 17 years, but boom, she's the founder and CEO of Ask Dr. Mom. So Ask Dr. Mom is a telemedicine platform for pediatricians, or for the pediatric population, I should say. So moms, when you're there, you're like, oh, what am I going to do? I need to ask Dr. Mom, right? That's who she is. And she also gives advice and counsels for parents on an as-needed basis. All of this can be available on her website. Welcome, 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 Dr. Raker. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited to have you because those of us who are parents, OMG, right? We love our kids. We love everything about parenting. However, it sometimes gets overwhelming. And I think that that's where you come in, not only as a pediatrician, but also the fact that you can help the parents with advice and counseling.
Yes.
So tell us all about it.
That is my goal.
That is all.
Well, I think of oftentimes we make a business or we solve a problem that we encountered. So one would think as a pediatrician that studied all things kids, right? For many years, for 3 years, that's all I did. That would come out, it'd be very experienced and can handle anything.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out that way. Having my first child after, going through residency and being a pediatrician just made me realize how you really need that support right as it's happening. And there's only so much that you can prepare for by reading a book or going to a seminar, or, now we have all these online courses, which is great, but or social media, giving you advice. And I think there's a lot of positives to be gleaned from that. But one, you don't have time as a new parent to read all those books. That's why I'm here, because I now have older kids and I've done all those reading. And you don't always have that, wherewithal to say, okay, this is the problem. Now I need to find a solution and search for it. And then also finding reliable information, I found was also very overwhelming, even for me.
Absolutely.
And I knew how to decipher that, right? But you go to these Facebook groups and people are giving advice, and how do you know to trust what they're saying? Or if you talk to a mom friend, and and I think mom friends are great, they're invaluable, but again, they don't have that knowledge base, right? They have their experience with their 1 or 2 kids. So all of that you need to take with a grain of salt. But I really wanted to provide a place where, I've had the experience, I've had the training, I've now added the parent coaching to be kind of more all-encompassing. So then you're not scrambling, where do I go, or who do I talk to, or can I trust this? And that's what I hope to be for parents.
And that's where Ask Dr. Mom was born, to help parents together, for parents who are being overwhelmed in the moment, in the time, unsure of how they're going to be able to manage not just the portion, the medical portion, but also the life portion of being a mom with their kid. Is this normal? Is this abnormal? Now, I know that you have this, you're a pediatrician, so you can take care as soon as they come out and they say, well, all the way up until they are teenagers and they're off to college and they're like, bye, mom and dad, I love you, but
Bye-bye.
However, because of our time constraint, we're going to focus on the toddler stage. That stage where we're like, oh, yes, little Johnny or little Sue is going off to preschool and they're acting up. But is this normal, or am I doing something wrong? Or, what am I missing? So tell us how you are able to help the families through that particular stage. We can drop all the gems.
Yeah. So exactly like you said, I can help kind of from 0 to 18 anytime. And that's really how I wanted to set my practice up, so that I could be available for questions. A lot of time with the infant stage, you don't get all your questions answered. So in those office visits. So that was something I really wanted to be available for. But the parenting part, that coaching part, I think really comes into effect when we're talking about toddlers, the terrible twos, the
three-nagers,
the threes, right? The three-nagers, the fours. We won't say the word, but anyway, it's all kind of that really hard period. And I think parents are like, whoa, what is happening here?
My child go. Who is this?
Well, totally. And you hear about it, right? But you don't totally get it. And I think for a lot of us, we remember being a teenager. So maybe that's a little bit, not that stage is easy necessarily, but we kind of remember that phase. But none of us really remember being 3 or 4. So it's not something you can relate to as a parent, like you could maybe as to being a teenager. So maybe that's why it's a little bit hard. And physiologically, hormonally, kids are kind of doing the same thing as they are in teenagers. You do get that little surge of hormones. So it's a lot of the same things happening in their minds, but we're just, but they're little. So we're like, what's going on? Right. So I think that stage is kind of like a really important initial step in that whole parenting process. And I think honestly, the things I talk about in that stage really can be used throughout parenting, even in teenagers, even in in adult kid relationships. I don't think it changes because it's so fundamental. Of course, how you talk to a 3-year-old may be different than how you talk to a 17-year-old, but the idea behind it is it's almost always the same. I can't really think of many situations that it's going to be truly different. So I think the number one thing is connecting. Okay. Connecting with your child is so important. And when I talk about it, I go as far as to say, choose connection over consequence. So if your child does something and you just feel the need to discipline them or feel the need to impart some kind of consequence on them, but that consequence is going to separate you from them physically and emotionally. Think about it. Is that really the message that you want to send them? Is that consequence really going to teach them the lesson that they need to learn versus you physically and emotionally connecting with them? And which one's going to have more of a long-term result?
So with this physical and emotional connection, can you give us an example?
So I think for this, definitely. So I think for this particular age group, one perfect example is when our kids are having a tantrum or they're just not listening to something that we're asking to do and you've asked them a zillion times, or they broke a rule,
in my
house. So, they threw something, for example, something that you're not okay with, and they know that you're not okay with it. They hit their sibling, right? It could be anything. It's a rule in your house that they broke. So I think a lot of times, a lot of things that even me myself was taught in residency, even in my early stages as a pediatrician, we were taught timeout. And I
Yes.
think that comes from, actually, I think it comes from like research on rats, to be honest. I don't even know where we came up with that, but this was very widely taught to moms, and it was very widely accepted. And it was, you know, every minute is goes along with their age, starting at 2. So if it's a 2-year-old that misbehaved, they should have 2 minutes of timeout, and it should be somewhere that they don't like to be in, and it should be some corner of the house that's horrible, and they shouldn't have any toys, and it shouldn't be any fun, and you shouldn't even look at them,
Right.
and what are we really teaching them at that point? We're saying, hey, you just had some emotional breakdown, right? I mean, for them to break a rule means that they were going through something. So if they're tantruming,
Mm-hmm.
think about us. Like, if we tantrum, if we're having a hard day, something's happening inside of us, right? So instead of saying, hey, I see that you're having big feelings, I see that you're having a hard time, like if they hit their sibling made them angry about something,
Mm-hmm.
right? So instead of dealing with your emotions, let's send you off into the corner.
Mm. So we've ignored the cause.
We're ignoring the root, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we're ignoring, or we're in essence telling them, your emotions are too big for me to handle. Your emotions are not okay. Your emotions aren't allowed. So when you're ready to stop having those emotions, then you can come back and be with me, us, or whatever,
Wow.
which
Yeah.
is clearly not the message we want to send.
No.
Yeah,
No.
absolutely. And listen, I did it too. So
Yeah.
if there's any
This is,
moms listening, I'm
yeah.
not telling you you have damaged your kids forever and oh my God, you're the worst mom ever. This is what we were taught. This is what we were told. And it's still a little bit common practice, I think, um, because that just was kind of the thing to do for a long time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not that, I'm trying to say you're a horrible parent for doing that. I'm just saying we have to look at things differently. And my favorite quote related to life, but related to parenting from Maya Angelou is, when you know better, you do better. And I'm
Absolutely.
paraphrasing, but I
Oh,
think you know.
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's how I think of parenting. Like, we don't always know the right thing to do with our kids, and we're gonna make mistakes. A
Mm-hmm.
100%. We're all human. We're gonna make mistakes. But the most important thing is to go back and rectify, right? So if your kids are little, you can do different things than timeout. If your kids are older, like mine, I mean, I went through that whole timeout stage, and I've recently kind of adopted this. You rectify the situation when you can now. I deal with them very differently. Um, we have more conversations, and when I had a lot of anger and yelling, and I'm really trying to be better about that. So when
Mm-hmm.
you know better, you do better, and that's the best, parenting advice, I think.
And you see the what I want the audience to even recognize is that this is something, it's a learn or enlightenment, right? And you're learning that what we were taught, because you're doing what you were taught, and I'm pretty sure that our audience is doing what they were taught, right? I was taught that this is how you handle this particular situation, but now we're letting you know that if we really think about it, we really weren't handling anything, right? We
Right.
ignored the root cause. We were invalidating the emotion because we never addressed the emotion that caused the tantrum in the first place. So with a child who is 2, who they're probably frustrated because one of the issues might be they probably don't know how to communicate,
Absolutely.
right?
Hmm.
So with that, what are some great techniques that you've seen and that you've used and that you've coached parents on that has been really, really, really helpful? And they're like, oh my God, Dr. Raker, this worked.
Yeah. So for sure, there's definitely techniques to use. Nothing's going to be 100%. And everything's going to take practice. So just go in with that mindset and be patient with yourself and your little one. But I think number one is connecting, like we talked about, and really empathizing. So a 2-year-old, like you said, may not be able to express what's wrong, but we can always try and guess, right? And we can empathize with what may be going on.
So
Oh, your baby brother took your toy. That must have been really frustrating. You know, oh, you really wanted to watch more of that show, but it's time to go. I know that must have been hard for you when I turned the TV off. You know, it's a little bit of guessing, and sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll agree, sometimes they won't say anything, but you're never going to be hurting the relationship by trying to really get at the root cause of what's going on. And the truth is, as parents, we often know, you know, whether it's that they had you know, oftentimes you'll know that they, especially at that age, they didn't have a nap. They're just not able to cope, right? So then you just want to say, you know, I think you're just really tired, and maybe we can just lay on the couch and snuggle together, right? And some of it's just knowing your child and knowing what they'll respond to, right? Is it physical touch? Is it having just some time together? You know, a little bit like love language, and I think at that age, just being with mom, dad, a loved one, knowing that you're safe, that, you know, you're seen, you're understood, that's gonna, oh my God, can you imagine that? Like now?
I know.
Right? I mean, can you imagine, like as an adult, I'm like, oh,
that's what we
so
want
nice.
as adults.
Right? Like if you're having a bad day,
yes.
Right, you're having a bad day and someone just says, come here, let me just hug you, you know, and you're like, oh yeah, thanks.
Wow.
So I think it's a lot of that, right? Like just not assuming that their behavior. So the behavior is comes from unmet needs, right? And it's our job to figure out what is the underlying thing that's going on that's causing this behavior.
Wow.
And it just takes some intuition.
You said something so powerful that I wanted to really just remind and to really bring light to the audience. So you said when we're having a bad day, we really want someone to just come and to kind of comfort you. Now, if we really translate that into our 2-year-olds, when they're having a bad day and they do something to express that and we put them in timeout, I'm thinking about, can you imagine you're having a bad day and then you get told to go to the corner versus, hey, let's figure out what's going on. You're having a bad day. It'll all be okay. Wow, that's very powerful. And you thinking of it in that light, it really gives you to think of, wow, let me try to express myself differently to my child and also to pull from them what emotions they are able to relay at that age. That's powerful.
And absolutely, right? When you look at it that way, you're like, oh,
yes,
I see.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
And, you know, just what you said about the naming it, I think, like you said, a 2-year-old doesn't have those names yet, but when that's also our job. So we are naming it. You're angry, you're frustrated, you're, you know, whatever it may be. So we're giving them the vocabulary. We don't expect them to have it, right? Even maybe a 5-year-old, we may not expect it. And sometimes the other thing we need to think about is a 2-year-old really capable of doing what we're asking them? Right? And that's not just based on development. That's not just like going to your pediatrician and saying, what can a 2-year-old do or not do? That's just knowing your child. So a lot of times when parents say, my child won't do X, Y, Z, my child won't listen to me, you know, you have to really reflect and think, is it my child won't listen to me or can't listen to me? You know, is it that what I'm asking of them is just not something they're emotionally, physically, developmentally capable of yet?
Wow. Powerful. So this all
Yeah,
starts within. And, before we start to express without, we have to think within, you know.
absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, which is really powerful and really hard because to
Yeah.
look into yourself, it's like, it's
Wait a
kind of
minute, I'm
scary.
fine. It's
Yeah,
not
I
me.
mean,
It's little Johnny. But maybe
exactly. And
that's
I've had to
look
do
within.
that, right? When you do like a parenting course, you first parent yourself and you're like, ooh, wow, that's a little uncomfortable. So
Um,
it is, it's a lot of that inner work. It's a lot of kind of therapy. It's a lot of, what did I receive as a child? What did I not get that I needed as a child? And really working on yourself. Realizing that a lot of our anger is just about trigger points and what is that telling us? Like, not externally, right? Whatever we're mad about externally is not really what's going on.
wow.
What's in us that's causing us to react that way? Because we don't all react the same, right? Not all things make us angry equivalently, right? Everybody has different anger reactions. So focusing inwardly on what's causing that anger as opposed to, you know, so and so spilled water again, or
Mhm.
there's dog food all over the floor. Someone else will look at that and be like, it's just dog food, I'll clean it up.
Right.
So, what
Absolutely.
is it that's making us so angry?
Yeah.
And all of that takes a lot of work. It's not easy. I don't think it's something we think about going into parenting. We
Hmm.
just kind of figure, they're just little people and you really attend to their physical needs,
Hmm.
and I don't think we think about their emotional needs. Not that we don't want to give them the best of everything. Absolutely, we love them like
Absolutely.
so much. You don't think about it,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. And I think that if you even really bring to light the day-to-day activities, right? Like think about that person who had a stressful day at work and they're coming
Mm,
home, and then now your child is also having a stressful day. So you both are having a stressful day, but you are able to handle it emotionally. You think about yourself emotionally. But as we're saying, when your child is having a stressful day, we also have to think about tapping into the child's emotion,
hmm
which is which means that you have to sit and worry about your trigger points, right? Is it a dog
Yeah.
food that's a trigger point? Probably not. It's
Right.
dog
Right.
food. It's really, I mean, life will go on, right?
Right.
And more
Right.
than likely, a dog will probably eat up the food anyway. And so happy that they got to eat.
Exactly. Exactly.
But overall, it really brings to light, what other issues can go on. So now, when we think about parenting and coaching, how can these parents in the situation, how can they get in contact with you? Is it that they will come online? Is it during that time, or do you try to coach them prior to getting to that stage? Or is it in the middle of the tantrum?
Yeah, no, ideally you want to do everything kind of beforehand and you want to have a plan. Even with your own kids, it's very hard to be rational during a tantrum for anyone, the parent, the child, even anyone watching. So I think it's really important to have a plan beforehand and
Mhm.
to really have those tools in place. And even I'd say talk to your child about it, or at least kind of present those plans and maybe practice them. I mean, I remember practicing breathing with my daughter
Mhm.
before we needed to breathe, right?
Yeah.
Um, so there's different things that you can use to kind of help alleviate the situation, and you want to have those in place because your mind's not going to be able to think about all that in the middle of it. So you really want to have those in place, and that's where the practice comes in, because the first time it happens you may not remember anything, or you may remember one thing, but the more you practice it and the more you practice it when things are calm,
Mhm.
the better you'll be when it happens. And I think if it's something that your child wants to do, um, that's going to make it so much easier for them, because you don't ever want to make it like it's a punishment. So I do think there is some benefit to having a corner for a child to settle, but it should be something really fun and somewhere they want to go. You know, it could be they have books there, they can have music there, they can have their stuffed animals there. It could be a corner in their closet. It doesn't have to be fancy. But when you say to them, you know, you really are, you're having a hard time right now. Would you like to go in your, and name it whatever fun name you want to have for it, and just take some time and be in there. And you're not posing it as a punishment, but you're maybe getting that time, you know, because I think timeout, a lot of parents will say, well, but I need to calm down. I need to not lose my, you know what, on my kid at that moment because I'm so triggered. So that could be one option if your child does well on their own. Like if they also need a moment to just compose themselves, then make it, you know, like a fun thing, like a something they're going to enjoy. And that's great. They don't, the connection doesn't have to be, you know, they don't have to be attached to you. And I think it's also very important for children to know, hey, I lose it too. I get triggered too, you know? And if your child really, if you really can't be with your child and they're tantruming and you just, you know, they're in the room or whatever it is, you can say, I'm going to stand just right outside of your room for just a minute because I need to calm down. So I'm going to use my tools to calm down and I'm going to be right there with you. You're scared, your feelings don't scare me. You know, your emotions aren't too big for me. I'm here for you. I just need a moment to calm myself down. And like, wow, isn't that an amazing thing to teach our kids?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then they realize that this is something that you go through also. And
your whole life, right?
Absolutely. And these are tools that you'll be using your whole life, right? Because we will have emotions that can sometimes get the best of us if we learn these tools from you're 2 years old. Can you imagine at 42? I mean, that's 40 years of skills.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
I'm 47. I feel like I'm just like scratching the surface of all this stuff. I mean, like if I'd started at like 5, I'd be, man, a whole nother level now, right?
Absolutely. We'll be on Zen level.
Right, right.
No, this is
we'd be floating in the air.
Floating
we'd be feeling so good.
And Zen level. And then come right back down.
Yeah.
Wow. So these are all such great, great, great skills. And I love that you have this amazing platform, not just for your patients and your parents to just take care of the medical aspect, but the life aspect, right? Because life happens. We all get overwhelmed. We all get crazy. We all get triggered. The dog food falls on the floor or is tossed on the floor. You know, like siblings are arguing. My kids are arguing in the car. What are they arguing about? A ruler. Hey,
yeah, it's always something stupid, right?
You know, absolutely. So it happens. And to know that there's someone there that's out there that can help you to develop the tools to help you manage through the stressful time and to prepare your kids for life, because these are life skills that they're teaching, right? So this is great, great, great. So now that we've figured out and you've talked us all about this Zen mode that you're able to produce in your parents' coaching business, let us know what you do for relaxation.
You know, most recently, along with this Zen mode that we're talking about, I've really adopted a practice of meditation.
Wow.
So living true to what I'm trying to teach, right? Mindfulness and really trying to focus in on if I'm having a bad day, why? Get underneath it. So that's been something I've been trying to do regularly in the past couple of years. And exercising. Exercising has been kind of my go-to. Actually, since I got married, my husband was a marathon runner. And I hated running, but he kind of got me into it, but not just running per se, but just exercising. You know, when we first got married, we would meet up after work and always go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
So he really got that into me. And now I realize it's such an important part of my mental health,
Mm.
not just physical, but just being active and sweating it out. And it doesn't matter what it is. I try to do yoga once a week. I try to do weight training. I try to go for a walk. I try to just something. And if I miss more than, I can miss like 2 days, but if I miss more than two, I feel it.
Mm.
And
Well,
yeah, so we're big proponents of physical activity, and we really encourage our kids. They're pretty active since a young age. We were kind of like, we don't care what you do, but you're gonna do something
mm-hmm.
almost every day outside of just PE at school and things like that. Because we really just wanted to be a part of them, something that they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can, we go for walks or hikes or things of that nature. But yeah, I'd say those two are kind of my like routinely things that I like to do regularly. And then, of course, a girls' night, a drink here or there,
Hey,
a manicure, a pedicure, a spa. I'll take any of that anytime also.
because we are moms and we're normal. We do medicine,
Yeah.
but we're normal people too.
Yeah. We like all
Wonderful,
of that.
wonderful. So let's let all of our audience members and let them know how can they get in contact with you. What are your social media handles and how they
Yeah.
can follow along on your journey or even be part of your clientele?
Yeah, please. So you can find me on my website, Ask Dr. Mom, and there's a dash between doctor and mom.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Ask Dr. Mom _ and on Facebook also as Ask Dr. Mom. And I also have a YouTube channel under my name, Elham Raker. So you can find me there. And, the best way to reach out to me, actually, any of those ways is great. But if you have a question about something, you can always reach out and just let me know. I'm always happy to do like a little consult. But I also really love educating. So if it's something, if you have a question about something, I'd love to do like a video about it and just share it with everyone. So feel free to always message me, those kinds of things. And then I'm happy to kind of share knowledge with the world about it. I think just like what you're doing, Dr. Beckford, just imparting our knowledge is, I think is part of why we went into medicine, right?
Absolutely.
It's part of who we are.
Absolutely. It's part of who we are. That's our love. That's our passion. Really helping our patients overall and imparting this knowledge, because sometimes it's very simple for us and it's a simple solution, but we didn't realize it would have been, or it's such a burden for you, our general audience. So if you ask us, we say, oh yeah, this is how we do it, right? And like Dr. Raker says, if you guys have any questions, you can contact her on those social media handles that Ask Dr. Mom, and she'd be willing to make a video for you on what's going on. I mean, how cool is that, right? So with that, I am so happy and grateful that Dr. Raker took the time out to be on our Your Caring Docs Who Care platform. Now I'm going to let you know that you can find us on a couple different social media handles, right? So that's Your Caring Docs, URCARINGDOCS. You're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, we're on LinkedIn. And we are going to have a brand new website, which is going to feature all of our docs from all over the world with everything that they can provide for you and their information so you can get in contact with them. And all of this great info that they've provided will be there. So you have info in written, in audio, and in video form, right? There's no way that you can't get in contact with Dr. Raker with all three ways to do so. So I'm Dr. Tamara Beckford with Your Caring Docs. I am so happy to have Dr. Raker here. We're going to say goodbye.